And like the replays are independent of the battle rooms, right? And
Yeah.
so you could potentially just join in. If I put an AI, it's going to show as co-op. I don't
Yeah,
want
that's
that to
fine.
show up. Yeah, but I don't want that to show up. I want players to join in, and then I can give them a link. While you're doing your analysis, I'll be able to assist you in the back end, like behind the scenes, this way. I'm just saying, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. My brother, you
Uh,
don't have to. I'm just thinking out loud. That's all.
okay. It's just
Thinking
because
out
of
loud.
how I'm using the way that Skylab works is by I can immediately launch replay, and it'll go to that, whereas I have to remember where my Skylab installation is.
Oh, does Sky Lobby not allow you to join a room and then also launch a replay on the side?
Oh, it does.
Oh, okay.
It
Well,
there are
give
reasons
me
to
it.
use it compared to
Yeah,
Chavi.
yeah,
Replays are the one thing it does objectively best.
right.
Unfortunately, it's just that with Skylobby, it's like if I find a replay, I immediately know what I'm looking at. Uh, Let me find. Share. I am live streaming at this time, so
Right. Yeah, no problem. What's up, guys? If anybody's able to see this in future, when you do some kind of playback, Driver's going to be doing a replay analysis academy clinic today, and I hope anybody who joins in, if in the event that you're watching this in future, next time we do this, please submit your replays in the mentor organization, or just tag a mentor maybe, or definitely tag maybe that you're an apprentice and you would like some help, and any mentor might be able to just jump to help you in future. So assuming this is going to be something that is put into a library for players to see, welcome, and I hope everybody checks this out. Driver, my brother.
Lexon, can you at least read the event sometimes? Thank you, by the way, Alco. So
Yeah.
this is a 6v6 replay. Typhoon submitted it. I'm only going to be doing the ones that Typhoon submitted because that's what I have time for today. In this map, there's Colonel Sanders, who's blue. Colonel Sanders, Cobalt, Kez, Ness, Bolsquint, Taco de Asada. On the other team, there is Typhoon, Alberto, Wing Arm, Darky, Taming Strange, and is Alice D. Bruno. Close enough. So on this map, I'll actually highlight these things. It is basically a 3-lane map.
Sorry, Driver, my brother. Can you link the stream that, or set it up on Discord, however you're trying to stream this, because I don't see anything here.
Okay. I'll put in the
Unless you
event.
already. Oh, are you Oh, sorry, you're streaming on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, sorry guys. I apologize. Okay.
I'll put in
Uh,
that and
yep.
oh, okay, that's fun. Okay. Anyways, I posted in the Bar Video Lives channel. So on this map, there are 3 lanes that for each player to contend with. In middle, and then finally north. On this map, it is worth noting that the south and north lanes, their mid region is lower to the ground compared to the edges of the lane. This is good for things like vehicle artillery. This is bad for things like anything laser that is really close to the ground, or missile trucks. The middle region is fairly flat, and same with the north and the south. It's fairly varied in terrain differences in height. It is worth noting that this map is usually a yin-yang, where the south team are going to have a slight economic advantage versus the southeast team will have a slight economic advantage over the southwest team, and the northwest team will have a slight economic advantage over the northeast team. One of your goals is to always manage, as these economically disadvantaged lanes, is to always try to maintain your presence in the lane for map control, and to also effectively not try to lose. So
A good way to do this as well, just as an aside, is if your advantage and or disadvantage is at the in a tactical advantage, like for example at the top of a hill. So if a driver wants to pick either one of those kind of ravines in the center or something like this, you would be able to set up thuds or something with like a ranged uh, that gets a range bonus based on whether or not it's at the top of a hill. So you can actually gain more control in these tactical advantages slash disadvantages in these areas. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just circling them right now.
Yeah.
So regions like this, for example, it is a
Sure.
minor advantage, but it does exist.
Does exist.
Yep. On this map, there is always a team play element between you and the person in your lane.
Hey
The
Sam,
same for-
my brother, can you just mute your mic real quick? Sorry, Sam. We're just going over the beginning part of the map, and then we'll unmute the mic so you guys can ask questions if you have for now.
Okay. It is worth noting on this map. There are usually team play elements that usually occur between the circled players. So in the bottom left, it'll be Obarto and Typhian, Ozudi and Darky, Wingar and Taming Strange, Kez and Takade Sada, Nez1, 01, Colonel Sanders being together, Kobold and Bawoska. I'm just going to call this person Dave from now on. That's my solution to mispronouncing your name.
Or colors.
Dark green. On this map, it is possible to consider teching with your ally, your teamed ally, or this back ally right here. This one right here. And this one right here, which will be OZD, Bruno, and Colonel Sanders. The reason why these are, generally speaking, the tagging spots is because they are often secluded from the map. The middle lane is its own issues, and it's a lot. You do have opportunity to tech with Detonating Commander in the back spots, so feel free to consider it. There are some people that are expecting it, by the way. Other people might not be. For starting locations, always don't try to start between all three maxes like OZD Bruno here did. Always try to start between at least two of some kind. I'm going to erase all the drawings now. Your goal, because if you can build this max and this max quickly, instead of walking between from here to here and then down here, you minimize your walk time to basically here, then down to here, and then down to here.
Time in this game is a resource, so you try to mitigate that as much as limiting that.
Okay. So every other start except for Colonel Sanders and Uzidi de Bruno is basically a frontline start. Other than that, we'll start moving forward at this time. Also expect that people will be communicating them. It's possible that Typhoon and Barto are specifically in a voice channel, so we might not be seeing any communication from them on the in-game chat, but we will be seeing. But you will actually know that they are communicating through voice chat.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go over just like build order and what people should be looking at on the map when they start the map, or?
So that pop-in's really bad.
Oof.
Thank you, Damgam, for being here. You get to see issues that other people normally don't.
Damn.
So on this map, there are two bots and vehicles are viable starts. Vehicles are extremely viable in the south and north lanes. They are often really good for pushing through those lanes with the vehicle artillery and missile trucks. If you want to use those. Raiding in this game is very limited to the southwest and the northeast areas, basically because of how open these starts are. The corner starts are a lot easier to protect. anything that is drawn with white is basically a rating point that needs to be considered on this team. So so if you're doing starts like this basically means you're putting your commander, which is a light laser turret, at the start of the match in a really interesting spot that doesn't protect the mechs and doesn't protect your energy production, and leaves open other players to raid through this means, and possibly to also double down over here, get your energy and metal storage. Sorry, your metal extractor. In the case of Colonel Sanders, he only has two ramps to really consider. Unless if something comes from all the way down here. And even then, it's still easy to cap. For build orders, one of the things that you can likely consider is opening as ARM, and opening first with a vehicle constructor and then a Janus. And this is something that Beam Beam Bang does a lot. What he'll do is he'll use his commander and the Janus to move forward, kill any raiders in the process, and get a high damage output at the start of the match. You can also consider light tanks or light infantry bots if you want to go out and scout. It is worth noting that the water is deep enough here for water mechs, and not deep enough for a to warrant a vehicle. Sorry, a sea lab or a naval lab, or a floating cover lab. Or actually, this spot might be able to do it though. It is worth noting that the water here is pathable. You can walk through it with bots and vehicles. So, I think that that's the overall early rating stage. Is there anything that needs to be added?
Just make sure that I don't know if you said this or not. I actually stepped away. I apologize. If you start a map, regardless of what the map is, guys, everybody should be paying attention to what the wind, the tidal, and the power of these two things are, so that way you know what the primary source of your energy is going to be. Go ahead.
Yep. So on this map, wind average is at 14.2, tidal's at 20. So if you're out in the middle of the lane and you need some quick energy, tidal is worthwhile, as long as you can protect it.
All right.
Alberto, he's opening up with a res bot. His goal is to simply look at the trees and say goodbye to them. They'll be in his energy bank. Colonel Sanders opening up with a few grunts of his own. This is very early for a nano turret.
Too early, for sure.
Yep. So 50-50 chances is not going to be punished though. So keep that in mind. There are mistakes in here that will definitely go unpunished, because there's a lot of people here who are new.
And the circumstances by which something might be unpunished or punished, as it were, at the end of the day revolves around whether or not you're playing in an 8v8 or a 1v1, for example. In a 1v1, this would definitely be punished, especially if you're playing against somebody who is mid-range or higher. So you're going to want to make sure that, obviously trial and error, but a good way to go through whether or not something's going to be punished is if you tried against AIs first. In this game, AIs are very good at raiding and early poking and scouting, so something to consider.
This is something that's also too early. A T1 Geo is not necessarily a bad thing, but you should be having like 200 energy as a stable energy income, and you should be doing this with 2 constructors instead of 1.
Sure. So, driver, sorry, I have a quick question. Before you get into what you're doing, can you address what might be the points of interest on the map? Not before you're addressing what you're doing, but maybe after.
So on the points on the map, for the north and south lanes, you are looking at regions like this and here. This is normally anything in this region is usually contested in a fairly harsh way. Spiders can walk through this region, by the way. So this is a very big point a point of interest to the South players, which would be Typhoon and Dave, or Dark Green.
By spider,
Yeah,
sorry, by spiders you mean all terrain?
all terrain units. Yes,
All terrain.
they tend to also be just spiders. It is possible to build navy on this map. Don't. These mexes that I'm circling right here in the middle, they are relatively protected by everything. They cannot be shot at by normal ground units. However, what you can do on the water is place things like coastal defense turrets here, and they will basically block everything that's attempting to go through this region of the pathable water. Same for over here. You can do the same right over here. Even torpedo launchers if you feel like the need to do so. That would only be done by your commanders, by the way. It is important to look at the time for this match. It is 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and if you remember when Colonel Sanders first opened a bot, it is now over here. So you have about 2 minutes and 20 seconds worth of safe ecoing. After that point, everything is going to be touched by at least something. Okay.
All right.
On top of that, there are a few geo points I will highlight. This is one of them. Another is right here. This is one of the reasons why the top left and bottom right areas have an economy advantage. Same over here and right here. These points right here in the middle are only really viable with safe geos or the geothermal battery. But if you're going to use the geothermal battery, it's basically you're shooting into this lane at roughly that firing angle, because the hill is just high enough to block the shots going any further than this.
All right.
And on top of that, the geothermal batteries cannot influence middle. Or there. Okay. I think that's safe. I think it's safe to move on. This person needs more energy, by the way. Every once a minute, you should at least be attempting to look up at the actual numbers of the income. In reality, you should also just once every like 5 or 10 seconds, you should look at your resource bars. So just see if they're going up or down.
Sorry, first time user. Where can I view what you're talking about?
So I just sorry, driver. I just put a link, Josie's, in the lobby that we are in the bar client there. So if you click on that, it'll bring you up to YouTube. It'll take you right to this video that he's on. There is a slight delay, just so you know.
Thanks.
My brother. Go ahead, driver. Sorry.
Okay. I just pinged you on it. On one of the links for a reply. So, at this point, a player is being punished for not ecoing in a defensible manner. So this spot went like this, and it's going to continue going down. And it's probably going to hit that last max. At this point, this grunt has already paid for itself in 2 seconds. By shooting stuff. So keep that in mind with looking at what is rateable. That's an overspending of LLTs. That's 4 LLTs for a mechs. That is, I think, an EMP mechs. That's also too many manos. No, that's just a standard mechs. Note that when I said that this person was making a geo, they didn't have the energies for it. They still don't have the energy for it, but their allies are overflowing. So that is an advantage that you can consider with team play. If you have someone that's going to rush the geo early on, and you're this player right here, you might want to consider giving them a bit of 1 or 2 wind turbines to help them get this up quickly. 1 geothermal plant can be easily converted into 4 T1 converters if you wish to do that. But more importantly, it's stable energy income. which on this map, there are points in times where wind will go below 5. One other thing I'm going to mention at this point. So for going for this early geo, one of the other costs that you have done that will occur by doing an early geo rush is that you're going to forfeit a lot of map control. If someone simply doesn't see anything in front of them, they're likely just going to keep moving forward. This can be good for them. This can actually have issues for them as well. But in this case, an aggressive push like this is not going to be punished, as well as the unit choice will not be punished. Simply due to there being no units that can contest the commander. These 3 pawns won't be able to contest this push. The same has occurred on south, by the way. And this is a... Oh, I missed this. Typhoon went for a comm drop, by the way. I forgot to check the times for him. I do not have my reclaimed display widget up, but just know that this is 2,000 metal just waiting to be reclaimed. This is
until we get that widget going. Maybe can you show how players can look at that, how they'd be able to see that?
They would need to be on Windows for me to show you how to download it. I'll gladly show how to download it.
I apologize. Maybe a miscommunication. I just mean, like, can you select a constructor and then press E? And,
this is running on my Skylobby installation, not my Choppy installation.
Oh, okay.
So it's not copied over here. That's why I need to find it. Always with commanders, this is something you always want to avoid. If you simply select the commander and press A, that ring is horribly drawn, but I'll circle it. Everything that's circled in this one right here, in the outer circle, is going to be killed by one of the commanders being detonated. The second commander is a bonus and will die. So always try to make sure that your commanders are well positioned away from each other, especially when it is in the early game and they're near a factory or constructors or expensive units. Especially
if you're hyper aggressive with your commander. If you're pushing forward, you definitely want to take especial care of your commander.
I think Typhoon
it's important.
I think I know why Typhoon submitted this replay in.
Probably. I know where you're going with this. Okay. Well, let's see it. Let's see what happens. Too much pausing, my brother. Come on, man. Let's play.
It's more watching TV that occurred.
I'm just messing with you, man. All right, let's go.
Yep. Also, don't leave your constructors out being random victims. That will happen. As a sign up for this, if you're being dealt with a push like this, what you should immediately consider is going with things like rocket bots. So that way you have the pushing power to counter this push. Plasma bots do have their advantages, but rockets will be able to better contest what's going on here at this time. And we're seeing the yin yang effect coming into play right now already. Okay. The downside of going with an air side, by the way, unless if you're going for a transport, you never want to do this. And you will notice that Typhoon will take a very long time to recover. Typhoon, you should actually be focusing on this rather than a nano. Because what Typhoon needs at this point is build power. Cobalt complaining about he took too much metal from the wreck. This person's coming out with at least plasmas, okay. There's another commander death. Kez will be able to utilize this for whatever he's doing. At this point, Kez will be overflowing to his teammates because he's reclaiming too much metal for his storage. By the way, reclaiming metal at the front line like this is never a bad thing, as long as it's going to your teammates in some form or fashion. The only time you might want to consider sending it some of your metal to an ally, if you're reclaiming at the front, is if you know that there's an ally that is not going to be able to spend the metal effectively.
Yeah, or you have a high skill player on your team or something like that. You're trying to feed them. Things like this is important too.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that. I apologize, driver, if you already said this. I kind of zoned out a little bit looking at the map. If you guys overflow, like the player that driver currently has selected, which is Kez on my screen, he may not have it now, but Kez is overflowing quite a bit, and so a lot of the extra metal will just automatically be transferred to his allies. So something to consider.
Yep. Just for proof of all that metal. That the metal has gone to other teammates. So this is the metal excess tab. Kez has only overflowed 2 metal.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, if ever you're looking at the map and you see it, one lane winning really hard and another lane winning fairly hard, and then another lane completely losing. This is a losing lane, by the way, for the right side. You need to pay attention. You need to be communicating. This ping is very late because Colonel Sanders, he's all the way over here. He's having to look at things. He's probably already knows that an ally is making a plasma cannon turret, which in this utilization is not a good choice.
Can you try to zoom in just a little bit more, driver? Sorry,
Okay.
I'm getting
Like this level?
messages. There's a delay on the stream that I'm watching, so just zoom just when the icons disappear.
Just with the icons.
Yeah, just off and on when you zoom in. Just zoom in so people can see what unit you're talking about, because they don't necessarily understand the icons. Plus, if other players are trying to check this out, right?
This
My
is
brother.
a plasma cannon, by the
Sure.
way. Just so that people can see. Typhine has just shared a bunch of paralyzers to Alberto somewhere, I believe. Yeah, they're right here now. When you're an air player, always consider team play. This is one thing that Typhine is doing correct. Colonel Sanders has probably just realized that his southern lane has just fallen and he's the next target. So unfortunately, he needs to respond to this. And there's not a lot of units that... There's a number of units that can easily respond to this, like rocket bots, plasma bots. They will be able to respond to this. But grunts are going to struggle a slight bit versus the missile trucks. There is a lot of missile trucks right there. And on top of that, there's also paralyzer drones as well.
Where exactly am I looking at the stream? Certainly.
There's about a 5 or 10 second delay.
That's somewhere around 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
A good
I'm
idea.
I'm
Good
just
idea
looking for the link.
for anybody on Discord. Sorry. For anybody who's in the game, I'm giving you links real quick. We're actually recording a video for YouTube for the Academy. So if at the end of the day you want to just mute your Discord, or you can mute the stream, doesn't matter, whichever one, just watch. Either one of them would be perfectly fine.
I would recommend that you mute the stream and have Discord be open.
If you have questions, definitely do this. Otherwise, I would even recommend that you mute Discord and just watch the stream, because then you'll actually be hearing Driver talk about what he's actually pointing at, for the record. Because I am 10 seconds at least behind right now. When you said that earlier, I couldn't see it. I apologize, guys. Just for the record, real quick before Driver continues, guys, this is a clinic event. So there's going to be a little bit of dialogue here and there, and if it derails from the points that Driver might be making, it's only because I'm interjecting like a nincompoop. So, go ahead, buddy.
Okay.
Okay.
Typhine underbuilding bombers to attack a geothermal plant.
Yeah.
Shane. If you are using bombers to kill ground units, it pays to pre-aim them and not just give them random attack orders like what he's doing right here. You will do that by selecting. You'll be selecting A and left-clicking the ground with a single bomber, or you can use right-click drag if you have multiple bombers selected, like this. Pre-aiming allows your bombs to be a lot more efficient, a lot more spread out. Okay. This is another big mistake that people do. I'm going to pause right here. So, it shouldn't take you too long to catch up. Whenever you are making energy converters, do not make basic solar for the specific purposes of converting that energy produced into converters. The payout is the worst that you can possibly achieve in the game. You're better off getting something like an advanced solar instead. Having 1 or 2 converters, by the way, if you already have like 30 or 40 basic solars, there are cases where you would want that many of them. Having 1 or 2 or maybe probably 5 is not actually that bad of a deal because your energy spending is going to vary a lot. But making specifically making the solars specifically for the purposes of the converters is never a good idea.
Yep. So the regular solars, in order to convert into metal from energy, you would need 3.5 of these because it takes 70 energy to convert to 1 metal from the T1 converters, right? And so that would require 3.5 solars, which is, what is that? That's 450. That's 525 metal in order to get the metal back, just to get those back. So at the end of the day, you're looking at 525 seconds. That's nearly 10 minutes for you to get the metal back just to convert that. Now here's the problem though, right? So this game is a streaming tug-of-war economy, which means that if you're ahead on your metal income, you can produce units a lot faster and get them going more. So it's not exactly a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of what you're building versus the payoff. However, being extremely inefficient like this is generally a bad idea. So
Yes.
as driver had said, definitely go for your advanced. Now here's the other thing, right? So let's say you hypothetically made 7 or 9 solars and you made 2 metal converters. This will allow you to exponentially grow a lot faster in terms of your economy, your build, your unit production, etc. Now you invested in this, but you need to produce something to get somewhere with it. Otherwise, all you're doing is a 1-to-1 rather conversion, and that is not the way to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Would it make sense to maybe just have a few in case you have more energy than needed at certain times,
That's right.
like
Yes,
during
that's
pauses?
Yeah,
That's
that's the exact point. It's just remember that your energy expenditure is not going to be the same. If you have a wind economy, you should more strongly favor the idea of having converters. But if you're not doing a wind economy, then you should really not be considering converters, unless if it's tidal at 30 or even 25. The payouts just don't come out quick enough.
Right, that's right.
Economically, I'll pause right here. Economically, bar plays by the 30-second marks, whereas its micromanagement, its build times, those play by the 5-second mark. That's the amount of time it usually takes for a single action to complete or be meaningfully impactful. So in this case, this person is continuing to push. They are using their artillery as if it's a brawling weapon. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work out that well, considering it has a very high firing arc, and it also has a very limited firing arc. Kez also is taking advantage of the fact that he's bots, and he's using his res bots to reclaim units when he doesn't lose them, which is actually a really impactful thing. If I were to pause it here, there is 2,500 metal here. Sorry, 2,600 metal. That's a lot of metal. That's a T2 lab.
Or 10 tanks or what have you.
Yep.
Which can win the game. So
That's-
controlling the metal is important.
Yeah. That's game-winning amounts of metal at this stage.
Yep.
So, This is a very interesting unit change, unit choice. Zars. They are very good versus large groups of units. They don't shoot aircraft, and they are very easy to stun. Alberto here is probably actually either going to... And because you only have one of these units, and there's a commander right next to it, there are two choices to be had right now. The first is that it gets permanently stunned, and Alberto either decides to simply degun the Tsar, or he can capture it because his commander's here.
For the record, real quick, a D-gun comes from your commander. It is essentially a one-tap kill weapon that costs 500 energy, I believe, driver. And
yes.
It has an area of effect that does do limited damage or reduced damage on the outside of its thing, but its area of effect, I should say. But if at the end of the day something connects with the D-gun, it is dead, no matter how big the unit is in the game. So.
Yep. Commanders can, by the way, can capture units while being cloaked. This is true for the decoy commanders as well. Alberto was attempting to capture, but because he lost this fight right here, he decided to degun the commander. Sorry, degun the Tsar. So that way the enemy doesn't get a new unit, and he's probably going to lose his commander at this point in time because of the amount of units that are here are normally not survivable for commanders.
Good idea would be to walk the commander into the group of enemy units. That way you can maximize the damage output that you're delivering on death.
Yes. Remember, the bomb is an explosive gift for the enemy. Make sure to take out as many units as possible.
Okay.
It might also make units go flying across the map as well. Alberto knows what that's like. Let's see what else. What other things are going to be interesting? So for unit choices and for turret choices, this Guardian is not necessarily a good choice, but it's not a horrible choice considering what's going on this other side with Colonel Sanders having to react to what's going on here. There are other turret choices that I would have recommended considering, like an HLT instead of a medium plasma cannon.
Or more units even would be
That would also be a really good thing.
Well.
It's not a horrible choice considering the map politics. But that's roughly the only reason why it's not going to be punished right now.
So just a real quick, just to add to that, just in addition to that point, a lot of the reason why medium artilleries or T1 artilleries are generally pretty good in terms of the static defenses is if they're in range of an enemy lab. That's a really good time to potentially make them. Now, here's the thing. You also have to scout when you're doing this. You can't just blind fire because they will lose. So keep map awareness, LOS, and pressure up in order to make use of these things. Otherwise, they are what is commonly referred to as a noob trap in this game. So,
yep.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just remember, it's not if something is not shooting and it's meant to shoot at an enemy and it's extremely expensive, it's dead weight.
That's right.
So at this point, building it, by the way, I'll pause right here. Building it is probably not a mistake right now, but you should be reclaiming it within this minute or the next minute. That's what I would be doing with this turret at this point in time. If I were to be given this person's lane and had to take over immediately.
Yep.
And what I would be doing is, on top of that, I would also be building a metal storage and possibly either considering teching or just getting out more units. Because right now, South for East is completely winning. North is transitioning into a losing state. And Middle is a stable position, but it's winning for East. The reason why...
Sorry, go ahead.
The reasons why this is a losing position, the units that they have isn't enough versus what the enemy has and what they're able to access for resourcing. Middle is stable, but winning for East is because they have access to the majority of the middle mexes, and they have control over who can enter the front of the line at this point in time. South is completely winning because both players on the East team have been able to get into a raiding position for both El Barto and Typhoon's bases. It is worth noting that for North, they have the ability to destabilize the middle by simply going through the water path right here. That is an opportunity for them if they don't want to push forward. That is the one thing that they can decide to do because they can value choking this off to be a much more impractical choice, or just getting access to all the undefended eco that's in the back. Disciple, are you going to say anything at this point? Oh no, he's muted. Okay. I'll be unpausing at this time. This, by the way, is a mistake. Always try to split your units into attacking as many things as possible. If you can attack 2 bases, that's perfect. If you can only attack 1, then that's fine. But in this case, both blue and green can be splitting their units to attack both. What you'll be seeing right now is that Colonel Sanders is coming up with red spots. His goal is to reclaim as much of the space as possible, and especially with a priority that he should have on the T2 lab. Because if he gets that T2 lab, that's metal that the enemy team doesn't have, and that's a non-resurrectable lab that the enemy team also has to work with. When you see someone coming into your base with red spots, you should always be trying to prioritize them whenever possible. Whether it's by parking your units next to the red spots to incur friendly fire. Something like Azar is very prone to doing friendly fire damage. I don't know what he's doing right here with his red spots. But that works. I'm going to highlight this. You'll notice that Typhoon, he did have T2 mexes. However, this was requiring him to receive it from El Barto. The downside of doing an air start is that this is roughly all the economy that he was able to produce with his build power. Mind you, Typhoon was also building air units, which are extremely expensive on energy. So remember that air starts there are going to really hamper your ability to build forward with your economy.
Fairly expensive on metal as well.
Their energy cost is double that of the regular ground unit equivalents normally.
They're generally a lot weaker, so.
Yep.
Anti-air can usually take them out.
Yep. If you are making Januses, always give them a line move by right-clicking and dragging with the move order, rather than telling them to go to a point. They are very prone to friendly fire, and having them spread out also helps mitigate their overkill potential. At this point, the only way that West is going to win is if they were able to kill 2 bases on the northeast or wipe out 2 other bases. If you see a Zara on the field, by the way, this person's making very cheap units called Pawns. They are actually rather good at countering Zars if they can get right next to the Zar. That helps incur friendly fire. Oh, and the resign vote has gone through. Hold on, I should probably be checking the YouTube chat. Whoops. Okay. So. Okay. Other than that, those are the big things I'm going to look at live. I'll be pulling up the next replay. To the people who are in here, are there any questions that they want to ask?
How can I join the next replay?
If you want to submit one, that'll be perfectly fine. It's just that I had replays that were submitted yesterday that I'm using for today.
Okay.
So if you go to if you were to open up the launcher for bar,
Okay, just a second.
let's see. I think it's this one. I'm just switching outputs because it's easier to double click on a replay until it opens Skype with me. So if you go to your demos folder under data,
Yeah.
you'll be able to there will be demos, and there'll be, what else is in there?
I have the
Just-
demos folder.
Yeah.
Just so you know, driver, we have a black screen on
yeah,
the on the
I'm
stream.
working on that.
My brother.
Why is it?
Sorry, Dusty, if you want, you and I can talk about this in the lobby in the game in our clinic room, and then driver can get to the next replay
Why is it?
if you want.
Solution. This will
Oh,
probably
okay.
work better.
Okay, so just jump in the bar client and then look for the clinic day lobby, and then I'll type to you in there.
Yeah.
Sorry, driver, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, no, that's all good. I'm going to be looking at Coom replay next. Hopefully that's not black screen for this time. Okay, good. Sky Lobby and Choppy work really well with each other. Normally. I say that and I look at the output and it's giving me a black screen. And then it flashes back. Perfect.
Yeah, it might just be delayed too, though. Remember, it's literally 10 to 15 seconds, maybe. Dusty, check your messages, my dude.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on, I need to check something. Is it this? No.
I just saw the bar loading screen, so it looks like you're good now.
Yep.
I don't know if you changed anything.
Never mind. I'll just deal with it later. So on this map. Oh, good. Kobold drew a bunch of X's. That's actually a good thing. So Coom is normally a 5v5 map or an 8v8 map. There are two ways of starting on this map involving the middle position. So if you are to look at what people are doing for their start positions, they are often starting at the frontmost 3 mexes that they have available to them in this column right here. Oops. I'm actually just going to circle them. 4, 5. The reason why you want people in these positions is so that way you get more of the metal forward. Coom is a unique map in that the majority of its metal value is actually in the middle of the map. There are mexes here that are not giving me numbers. There are 3.5 and 2.5 metal mexes on this map, and most of all the 3.5 mexes are basically within this square. So, team play starts. There are reasons to consider them. One of them being is that you're going to be deciding, you're basically allowing your ally to get out 1,000 metal worth of economy and defenses, or in a much more offensive place rather than at a base somewhere in the middle, or in these starting columns. For interest points on this map are this mex right here, this geo, this mex, these two mexes, and on top of that, this hill is a 50-50 on whether it is important. There's a geo here, all smeared on the map, and down here on the south side as well. There's also a geo on the hills. So the hills, they are really nice to have. Don't go for them immediately in the center lane. Their advantage pays off in 5 minutes of strategic play. For example, game medium plasma cannons up here, or and shooting down into this lane right here. Each lane on this map is for the middle lanes is roughly vehicles, generally speaking. However, bots do work. For the north and south lanes, which are some of the more fun lanes on this map, these lanes are practically exclusively bots. Just getting down here through this point right here, that's bots only. For vehicles, you would have to go all the way around and then down. For mexes, generally speaking, the back three mexes, the middle column of mexes in the middle, these four right here, these are for the front players to utilize, not techers. Techers get their own sets, like ones right here, 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 and here. So keep that. So if you are playing it in a back spot, which there probably is only one or two of you, leave these front mexes right here for your allies to pick. If they don't pick them after a period of time, then you probably should claim them. Are there any questions about Coom so far? Okay. Silence is always an option of saying yes.
Yeah. That's right.
On this map, generally speaking, the map politics follows around this line of drawing. That's usually just for the middle lane. That's just because the terrain forces you to do things along that route. For Coom, it has a wind speed average of 8. It is still viable to consider if you're going ARM with solar. Sorry, ARM wind. Core wind is a little bit more finicky. It's just that when it comes to scaling up your economy with wind, it's going to take a lot more space.
As well, the average is very important for you to understand in terms of making an energy storage or something like this to play the averages in the long term. But to know whether or not you're going to make wind rather, in terms of your energy generation at all, the thing is what you need to pay attention mostly to is the lows. And so on this map, for example, the lows is 5. So the amount of metal it takes to make winds will be similar to like a 3-to-1 ratio for solars, somewhere in and around this. If you're core, if you're ARM, it's closer to 4-to-1. And so what this means is that you will be able to, at the end of the day, generate much more energy going with wind for either faction, because the average is a lot higher. But the low is such that even when it drops low, you're not going to be screwed out of energy. And whereas on some maps, the low might be 0. And so when it goes that low, you may be robbed of your energy altogether. We're getting some flickering on the stream.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the cause was. This is my first time using OBS with Skylobby. And Chabi was...
Take your time.
Yeah. To
Take your
give
time.
perspective, it'll take on the minimums... for a minimum wind of 5, 4 arm wind generators is 2 metal cheaper than a basic solar at the high cost of energy. So wind at the minimum of 5 is more expensive than basic solars, if you're curious. At 8, it's a little bit less painful, but for core it's practically a worse deal.
That said, again, for the same argument that we made earlier about conversion from energy to metal, a lot of the time you will find the inherent advantages of getting power spikes or metal spikes early, as opposed to the total cost in terms of the value of how it will play out later. Not to mention, you can also reclaim these things. So it's something to consider as you're going. The more you play, the more well-versed you get in terms of how you're going to start your economy and on what map you're going to do this on, and the experience will come into play, and you will find that your build orders will change. So take this with a grain of salt, but just as like a guide. you will adapt as you get better at the game. So if in the event you find yourself playing this game for 3 months, you're going to have a different opinion than what we're citing here today.
Yep.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I'm going to highlight this for El Barto. If El Barto ever watches this,
Barto.
because he's a really good player. You will notice that on this map, he is going with advanced solars. Now, for a front position, that means that he's going to be taking away his energy production and dumping it into more energy production. This is the cost they always pay with advanced solars. On this map, it is generally not good to open advanced solars until you have 300 or 400 energy income, and even then, you're probably going to have 15 or 20 basic solars just to make that up. And you're going to want. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a lot better just to spam basic solars on this map compared to advanced. So on this map, a forced trade of commanders has occurred. Can I see them? I can see them. Debugging tools are always fun to work with that. They have traded right here. At this time, it is between a high TS player and a new player. So this is always... Bar features politics. This is one of those things that tends to happen. The downsides of both players is that they are both vehicles, and vehicles are never good to utilize with a commander trade like this at this timing, because you have to get your vehicle constructors are extremely slow, and res balls are significantly faster than anything on the map at this time.
And the investment in order to secure that area is increasingly. It's significantly increased, I should say, with vehicles as opposed to bots.
Yeah. On top of that, everything is a lot more fragile in terms of what can push what. For example, if this person right here were to simply switch over to rocket bots and we're to simply push them right through here, there's nothing stopping them.
Right.
There's nothing that this commander can do to defend against rocket bots. So keep that in mind when you're forcing commander trade this early on. Look at what the person above you and below you has for a tech, and look at what their opponents are, and especially take note if they're vehicles or bots, or hovercraft if they decided that was a good choice on this map.
And a lot of this will vary based on the time in the game too. Like for example, this is happening at I think that says 2 minutes and something.
3
minutes and 20 seconds. Right, and so this is something that will happen at 15 minutes in the game as well, and so you're gonna have to make these cost-benefit analysis, determinations as you're going through the game too.
Yep. Okay. So at this point in time, you'll notice that El Barto is probably going to have a very fun time versus Aqua, simply due to Aqua can simply change to rocket bots and counter this raid right here with the infantry he has. And that basically means that if you want to look at it this way, this player switching to rocket bots, and this player having to defend this, basically means that you can 2v1 this person while also affecting this person as well, and making them
everybody. Sorry, go ahead, Trevor. When you're finished, I gotta say something though.
Yeah. By being able to switch to other unit types and start pressuring them, it basically means that this person right here has to respond in some way, which means that this gets less attention for this player to start stealing the metal from the commander trade. Go ahead, Alco.
Okay, rather than send me messages, guys, the thing to remember is whenever you join a voice chat, all you have to do is click on the voice chat there that we have going in Discord, and you can see the message box or icon or link that will open up the messages, and then you can ask questions there, and I can address them while Driver is running his video clinic. Thank you.
Oh, fun.
Go ahead.
I know I have a black screen right now.
I
fix it at this time. Okay.
No, it's
I'll
just
be
people
unpausing.
PMing me, that's all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything more to say. Okay. By the way, the reason why I'm mentioning that a player switching over to something is a really good choice when a player from 2 lanes over switching over to something to apply pressure is a good thing. is because this is essentially has merged from 4 lanes of mid fighting to 3 and 4, with 4 being on this side, 3 being on this side. And you'll notice that Grumpy is starting to pick up the reclaim. One of the things, by the way, that Typhoon should have done, because this is the advantage of an air star, is immediately pick up his commander with a transport and send his commander all the way down here. That will help mitigate the loss potential of this player right here, and help mitigate the gains that Grumpy will be making. Just remember, if you're in the back spot, taking reclaim off of the map is actually really important, especially if it's the enemy team that's going to get. So, if you are sitting in the back, you should always be looking at what's going on in the front. And this is an intentional detonation, by the way. That's for teching. For teching on this map, 4 to 5 minutes is what you should be aiming for detonating your commanders. This is always a bad choice. Expensive turrets like this at this time is never good. This is another Force Commander trade. At this point in time, it is likely that East will be able to secure it compared to West. However, West has opportunity and means of mitigating this loss of 4,000 metal wrecks. Okay, moving on. As you can see, a person switching over to Rock Blast. They're basically able to apply pressure now. El Barto is reclaiming his lab at this point, but he doesn't have res bots. Or actually, no, he has 1. But he probably should have a 2nd or 3rd at this point in time. Also, if you're going to have Rocket Blast, you need to make sure that they're spread out. And at this point in time, Grumpy is going to be taking that 4,000 metal in the south, free of charge, even though he was one of the people that did the Force Commander trades. At this point in time, Future is able to push hard into HK Lyman, simply due to just having ints that are able to apply pressure to turrets. As a reminder, picking up transports can be units need to be stationary to pick up units unless they move extremely slow, like constructors. As you can see with Grumpy, even though he's involved in this lane right here, he is looking for opportunities to simply sidestep his entire lane and go infect his enemy directly as much as possible. That's an extremely important thing to be doing, especially in a team match. In team games, if you make 2 people lose their front lanes on this map hard and you hold 3 in a reasonable position, in the long run, your economic advantage is in your favor. Because most people, if you push them out to this line right here, from this side, you mitigate a bunch of them. You mitigate a fair amount of mexes that they normally would have access to, and especially a lot of the 3.5s. Is there anything other people want to comment on at this time?
Just real quick, guys, if you have a question, make sure to unmute yourself on Discord and then ask it there. Highly recommend that you right-click your name on Discord and click Deafen, and then watch on YouTube on the live stream on Driver's channel. Make sure to hit subscribe, by the way. And you can just easily see it there, and if you have a question, just pop in with, I have a question, and then we will address that as we go. I apologize. We'll suss this out next time.
Yeah, this is the first run, and I decided to not have any planning for it.
It's all good, brother. Go ahead.
And that's how I figure out all the issues normally. Interesting unit choice for pushing forward. But it works. As long as he kills the constructor here, he stops a bunch of turrets from being built. Oh, and he probably just realized what he made. Yep.
We have a pause screen on the live stream. It's just non-stop paused. So I don't know if you pressed. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, I'm an idiot. I paused the live stream. I'll shut the hell up. Go ahead. Sorry.
We have a professional YouTube operator here right now, I guess.
Yeah, dude, and I've been doing YouTube and Twitch for 10 years. Anyways, I'll shut up. Go ahead.
I'm joking. Don't worry, I've seen worse.
I have a question. What you said earlier
Mhm.
about building regular solar collectors instead of advanced solar collectors. Why is that?
So basic solar doesn't cost energy to build. That's the main advantage of going with basic solar. It allows you to. It basically means that your energy production is guaranteed to be for building units, and for units to be firing weapons if they cost energy to fire. Whereas,
Okay.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
is there any other questions out there right now?
Just to reiterate what Driver just said. Driver, can you select a solar, please?
Okay.
And then mouse over the info panel on the bottom left. So as Driver does this, guys, you're going to see it on the live stream here in a second. The solar costs no energy. So if at the end of the day you are hurting for energy in your economy, like for example Aqua is currently on the stream, Aqua would benefit here.
Would you say that?
Yep, go ahead. Sorry, Prime. Oh, sorry, you're watching a stream, so you're 10 seconds behind. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hold on, it's a little tough to do because when I'm trying to talk on Discord, it's like getting mirrored on the live stream, so I'm not sure how to like deafen and keep my mic open at the same time.
So in future we're gonna fix this for the record, guys. Just so you guys know, Driver's gonna stream his stream on YouTube. I'm going to stream his stream on Discord, and that will solve this problem. Moving forward, though, Prime, go ahead, ask your question, my buddy.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so basically I was saying, it feels like Alberto is basically doing advanced solar because he's confident that he can get the benefit from that and not get smashed. Would
Correct.
that be correct?
Yes. Yes, that's the exact reason why he's doing it.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead, buddy.
Advanced solar is just basically a case of how effective can you start spamming them up until a point where you need to switch to T2 economy, because advanced solar does have it will fall off versus tier 2 economy.
In the event that you are thinking, oh no, I need energy because I have no energy, advanced solar is not the way to go.
Yes.
Especially if you have metal. If you have metal, then the correct way to go, if you have any kind of relatively average or evening out economy, and wind is supported on the map, like this map for example, it's a decent wind would be the way to go. If at the end of the day, you don't actually have any kind of energy at all, so if Driver will select Aqua here in a second. I know he just had him selected, but just again. Aqua has no energy, but he has a little bit of metal, if not no metal. But he needs energy quickly in order to make sure that his units and his economy maintain production and a steady growth. He needs energy now. What he should be doing is setting one constructor on regular solars, if not asking his teammates for support. If this is a one-on-one, he would have regular solars building. And the reason this is because regular solars, again, they cost no energy. So he needs energy buildup, but he needs to not spend energy to make them. Advanced solars, on the other hand, cost a significant amount of energy. So to make one costs a lot of energy, but it has a decent payoff in terms of its metal cost moving forward. Advanced solars are something that you're going to want to build when you have a decent energy income, but you have a low metal income. And so it is the exact inverse, in my opinion, to a standard T1 solar. A solar you make when you have no energy and a lot of metal, or average to evening out metal. And an advanced solar collector is something you make when you have energy and low metal. And that's kind of how that goes for me personally. And I'm mostly a 1v1 to 4v4 player. So I can tell you from personal experience, making advanced solars oftentimes loses me the game because I stall my own economy on energy.
Yep.
So be very careful how you make these.
On top of that, to give a little bit more perspective, Aqua is spending 86 energy just to maintain this one advanced solar constructor thing being built.
Sure.
So this is not cheap, and that is a big chunk of his deficit right now. It'll pay off in a moment, but right now it's not going to pay within the next 20 to 30 seconds, I think.
Yep. Advanced solars are generally better on maps with low metal and high wind, or high energy and low metal in general. So,
they're also good to transition to if you have a bunch of basic solars and you want to transition to advanced solars.
That's right.
You will get free metal basically at the cost of energy.
Sure.
And build power.
And here's a good way to tell whether or not you're doing it right. If you have multiple constructors making energy, you want to put them on advanced energy. And if you have limited constructors making energy, you want to put them on the most practical energy. Full stop. That's kind of just the way to do it. So, all right. I will shut the hell up. Go ahead. Okay, man says.
It's convenient.
It's okay, buddy. Go ahead.
So as you can see, Grumpy has gone T2 with Armed Vehicle Lab. That's just because of the 4K metal he got. He's able to do this, if you're curious. On top of that, he has additional reclaim that was given to him by someone, which is this free metal that's saying about that he's not working on. Maybe he's a person that needs the reclaim display widget. Oh, he just realized it. And you'll be noticing that he's reclaiming the lab at this time. He has a T1 metal storage. And he has a console here. I need to pause this for a second. You will notice that he has not set this to repeat, and that he has queued up about 15 or 20 FIDOs. Just like the core combat engineer for the T2 bot lab can make ground units, the ARM combat engineer in the vehicle lab can also make ground units, and specifically a lot of bots. In this case, it can make FIDOs, gunslingers, pawns, T1 anti-air, which is the crossbow, and the recluse. It can also make the pop-up plasma artillery, the pop-up anti-aircraft battery, and the beamer. For economy, combat engineers can only make usually the metal extractor, and that's about it. But in the case of the console, it gets basic solar. And what he's going to do is he's going to use that lab metal to make units. Just remember that his unit choices are going to be limited to what the console can produce, not what the factory can produce. There's also a slight chance that the console will get stuck on things, because those FIDOs need to move a bit.
Just a real quick tip too, guys. Let me move closer to my mic. At the end of the day, a lot of what you're going to be experiencing in this game is the kind of economic investment into your economy. It's going to feel like, well, shoot, I can't produce units because I'm spending negative 100 metal into my economy. But the thing is whatever you're producing in terms of economy might cost X amount of metal. But whatever the overflow is oftentimes what's going to produce units. And by overflow, I don't mean overflow in terms of your maximum storage. I mean in terms of your economy production. So for example, if you have 5 constructors, let's say vehicle constructors, and 4 of them are on regular solar and 1 is on an energy converter, by the time that energy converting energy conversion production constructor makes its 10th or 15th converter. If this makes any sense to you guys. Your surplus after that, after the initial cost of the economy production, is all going into units. So you're investing a lot of metal, and that's going to hurt you in the long run, or in the early game. But in the long run, you're going to be able to produce more units. So let's say your unit production is 5 metal per second, and your economy production is 15 metal per second, right? And let's say this is 5 constructors to get the economy going. You're going to be, as soon as every metal over 15 goes straight into units. So you might invest 2,000 metal while you're doing this, but every unit after that is going to be pumping out and producing a lot faster. You'll be able to make T2 units, you'll be able to make more expensive units in general, you'll be able to put more build power around your labs to do this. And so, you know, consider, like, think about your base like it's a growth mechanic. You want to start off slow, but end really strong. And the way to do this is with a gradual increase, but a steady increase as well. And so, you know, things like advanced solars are very important for you to transition into. Tech 2 fusion, a fusion reactor, a Tech 2 energy production is important for you to transition into. Not because it costs 4,000 metal and that's going to set you behind. You could have 40 units instead. That is a very good point to make. But if you can't win the game by the time that those 40 units might be made, you could consider winning the game within the next 10 minutes after that fusion is made, because you can produce 80 units instead. So there's a growth mechanic that happens. Like I said, time is a resource in this game. And so you have to consider your time wisely. And sometimes making your economy in the early game can pay off in the late game. Whereas making your economy in the early game can also hurt you and be a detriment to your success in the early game. So you kind of have to weigh this out. And as you get better and as you play more, you'll find your experience with this mechanic will adapt to different maps or different scenarios, different team size games, etc. Games with different team sizes, I should say. And you know, a lot of what we're talking about here, you'll be able to look back at it and go, now I get what they're saying. A brand new player may not understand this, but somebody who is you know, in their 10th or 15th or 20th game, they will 100% get it. And if they don't, that's what we're here for. So
by the way, I would like to mention that Typhon failed to fully clean out the fusion reactor that Grumpy was making. Buildings will transfer into, they will go into a wreck and then into a heap if they have the potential of doing that. Typhon left behind 1,000 mil worth of reclaim for Grumpy to pick up right here. On top of that, Typhon also attempted to calm snipe Emishiro's commander. Generally speaking, where the commander originally was actually a very good choice, because what you get is one lab, an incomplete nuke with being built, which is roughly the cost of an advanced fusion reactor. And this basically would become unresurrectable with the commander explosion. Unfortunately, Emishiro made a very smart move of moving his commander out of that area and as far away from everything valuable in particular. If a player were to do this with what Emishiro does, what he should have done, he should have just targeted the build power right here. And you'll be seeing some people making notes about nuke being built. If you see a nuke being built, by the way, and it's at the 15-minute mark, and you know it's not complete, tell that to your team that it's not complete and that they need to immediately transition into a tier 2, into having a anti-nuke. If you are in this position, like for example, Alberto and Skulfer, they should be working together to get an anti-nuke out. Communication about very important things like a nuke launcher is extremely important. So if you know something, put it in chat. People will at least look at chat. So, go ahead.
Driver, can you deafen me on Discord for maybe 12 seconds or so?
Sure. Done. I can't hear you. By the way, ping me in a DM, Disciple, if you want me to undeafen you. I won't be able to see the DM, by the way. I will just know that the ping occurs. Does anyone have any questions, by the way? By the way, if Disciple's asking to be unmuted and you can hear him, ping me somewhere, anywhere, because I won't be able to hear him. That's an interesting choice for a nuke. But generally speaking, if you can try and get the nuke to land straight onto a person's base, that's best. Nuke choices should generally be speaking based like this, where there's two people involved. Okay, I'll unmute you right now, Disciple.
Thanks, brother.
You're unmuted right now.
Thanks, brother.
This nuke is actually a relatively bad choice. If you're just not just because you're only hitting one base, but also because you could be hitting a much more valuable unprotected base. Even though it might show that this anti might be spotted, by the way, which is why he's not nuking here. But he did, even though it's unfinished, it will show, the rings will show whether or not the anti-nuke is loaded. Actually, let's see. No, that's not the one. This one.
Driver, I have a quick question for you when you're done this, so let me know when you're ready.
Ready. I'm ready right now.
Okay, perfect. When you select the nuclear missile launcher, can you mouse over the info panel, tooltip on the bottom left,
Okay, done.
and give a quick explanation, or maybe I can. When you guys mouse over the tooltip of certain units, for example, the tactical missile launcher, the EMP missile launcher, the nuclear missile launcher, or what have you, you will be able, the Juno, you will be able to see what the cost of the munition is. And so, for example, the nuclear missile launcher costs, what is that, 1,500 metal, does it say? Sorry?
Yes.
1,500 metal and 187,500 energy. So earlier, Driver had actually mentioned that the nuclear missile costs the same as an advanced fusion. He is incorrect about this.
I was referring to the launcher
is the cost
itself.
of the silo.
Yeah.
That's right. The cost of the silo, not necessarily the cost of the missile. You have to factor this in if you're trying to be super efficient or hyper efficient in an 8v8 game where you may or may not have a tech position in the back of the team. So the cost itself of the silo, the launcher, is 7,700 metal for core, and the cost of the missile is 1,500. In total, this is 9,200 metal. This is roughly the same, if not a little bit more, than what your economy will be able to produce if you are making a T2 economy instead. So it's something to consider. Don't just rush for nukes unless you communicate this with your team and you're in a position to actually make use of something like this. Otherwise, it would be probably better for you to produce an economy which will generate significantly more metal in the interim, and then produce units like air units, gunships, bombers in particular, support units like the Arbiter, or I can't remember what it's called, but the Merle, long-range missiles, things like this, in terms of units instead. I apologize, my brother. Go ahead.
Thank you for correcting me on that. Thank you for catching that, at least.
Yeah.
It is worth noting that the ARM nuke launcher, I think, is a similar cost, but its nuke is a little bit different in terms of build speed and in terms of
Build cost.
Yeah.
So
that nuke lands, it hits a base. That's actually rather good. It means that a player has been taken out in terms of their T1 frontal economy and their factory. and he's complaining about being nuked. That's okay, happens. But always with a nuke, always try to aim for build power. Always try to aim for a factory. Try to aim for a lot of reclaimable stuff. Like what you'll notice here, like with Alberto, he's planning to transition into T2 economy right back here. After stuff gets going on his queue. It's important to remember that if you were to upset this in any way, it's a lot of work for him to that he has to go back through again. And spend APM on...
It's that same investment of economy that I was just referring to. So,
and this is probably just with Alberto's base alone. His energy production is worth 2/3 of an advanced fusion. It's listed right here with it's 6,020 metal in terms of just costs on energy production alone. On top of that, you might want to... Oh, go ahead.
So, go ahead, brother. You first. It's your clinic.
So, if you are looking for targets to nuke, people who have a lot of energy production are usually a good choice to nuke, as long as alongside their build power. Build power allows you to recover quickly. Energy production is really nice to have. It's just an initial step of recovery if you don't have it to begin with. So that's all that I had to say about that.
Sure. So the question I have for you, driver, right now with the replay going live and players are watching and somebody might be watching on YouTube, respect and hi everybody, virtual high fives and handshakes. What I have a question for you, driver, is what do you think the win condition is of this current game? Whether or not you think the best players in the game have it, or if you think somebody in the back row who may be a new player, like, for example, some of the players who may be watching, could do to potentially influence the game in such a way that it might actually be a win condition. So what are the win conditions, would you say, my brother?
Right now, what I would say is looking at North. Typhoon is getting things like crows, so...
Let's go with, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Let's just go with... I know you've been saying player names, but let's go with the player colors.
Okay, so yellow.
They may not be able to read it, right?
Okay,
so
yeah. So yellow has been producing a number of highly expensive and has a lot of air units. So as a front player, what Future is doing here, which is light green, he is bringing in a bunch of raiding units in the form of pyros and a bunch of tier 1 anti-aircraft bots, which are rather good for value. And he's also trying to secure his front mexes, and he's trying to secure his a really good position for the North Lane to not be pushed into any further than the hell. This is a potential one. This is a win condition after 10 to 15 minutes of if Future's allowed to eco, this lane becomes winning just by virtue of having more mexes. For middle, right now what it looks like is Red's ability to maintain his economy and his army. That's the one condition for middle. Orange, which is the cat, he is in a awkward position of no units, and he isn't in a position if anything were to occur to his base or to, whether it's his forward base or his back base, if something were to occur, he has nothing there. He is completely reliant on teammates. Which is not necessarily a good thing, but it does mean that you're going to be losing out on a number of things, like being able to defend yourself and having to deal with allies not being able to micromanage their units. Yellow is working on a plasma battery right here, a geothermal plasma battery. This is not necessarily a good choice considering what's going on in the North Lane. It will take a little bit of time for it to pay and express itself into these mexes, and that's about it. It's going to only mitigate what the North's winning condition. For South, this match is normally when either North or South first. Realistically, it's just down to how far can these tanks get into Grumpy's base. And how many Nowters can they kill at this point? If they can take Grumpy out for 5 or 10 minutes, Grumpy's economy simply overflows to his allies.
I'm sorry. Just 1 second. 1 second. Just shout out to Ozpark. I love you, bro. No homo. Okay, that's
my
all I
God.
want to say. Sorry, guys. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, entirely unneeded. I appreciate that, but entirely unacceptable, inappropriate, I should say. Go ahead.
Congratulations,
Apologize.
this event is being live streamed.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. Go ahead.
Okay. Moving on. For right now, what I would say is South Middle, which is roughly everything here, is in a stable condition on both sides. Kosulfur is making a pink, or is that beige? Would he have 16 colors in the team? It's really hard to tell sometimes. He's making a attack nuke. This is a very good tool for him to be able to kill snipers, which is what Blue's producing. Snipers take a little bit of time and effort to pay out, so keep that in mind. The question really is how much stuff will the snipers have to shoot through before they get to the tactical nuke, and will the tactical nuke land on these snipers is the other question. Oops, I didn't mean to press that button. Economy-wise, East has 1 APHIS up. They have an APHIS level fusions right here. They're going to have a second APHIS up soon. West doesn't have an APHIS. Sorry, they have 1 APHIS that's tied to Kobold. And, 2. I lied. They have 2 APHISes. This is a slight advantage right now, but it's going to grow into a interesting choice later. The fact that one player right now has 2 APHISes is actually really powerful, instead of on East's team where one player has potential, one coming soon, 1 complete, and this right here. This is what is being done right here, by the way, with the shared fusions is not actually a bad thing. It allows other people to tech up quicker. So I think that explains my entire opinion about the match right now. Alco, are there things that you want to add to it?
No, I think that's good. The only thing I would actually just add to, kind of expound or expand on what we are actually looking at on the map too, as spectators who are just watching your stream. I think that one thing to remember, guys, is that to zoom in and out is incredibly important. And as a new player especially, this is something that you need to get used to, because all of if not most of the veteran players are playing the game zoomed out. And so you might find that your particular unit composition is not really working well. You might have to zoom in to see why. A lot of the more experienced players will already know this, and I think that for the same reason that Driver is pausing the replay, so that way we can kind of go over these points and tips and things like this, are things that you're going to be able to suss out when you get better at the game. So just keep in mind that, again, a lot of what we're talking about are things that you may not quite understand right away, especially if you're a new player, but otherwise you're going to see a lot of this come to fruition and be able to deduce what is the best play to make, a cost-benefit analysis as you're playing the game the more you play. So no, I think Driver nailed it, and that's exactly right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
For the battle line, this is something that some other games tend to display this, but I'm going to draw that here. That's the battle line is the center line that goes from roughly north down to south. That shows where the map control is being expressed. So keep in mind, when there are bulges like this is opportunity. When there is a pressure point like this is a bad thing for your next ally over. So you should always try to look at how are you expressing yourself as on the map control versus where your enemies are. Just because you have a big massive push right here does not necessarily mean you're going to win. This likely right here is likely to push much further in. If I were to erase that, El Bartos, Morty's, Reds, Sheldon's right here are much more likely to push in and be able to shoot the things a lot quicker than these snipers will. For APHIS to Metal Maker ratio, it's 1 APHIS to 4 converters for roughly correct for the practical efficiency. For the real efficiency, it's 1 to 5. 1 advanced fusion to 5 converters.
Sure. And so an advanced converter consumes 600 energy to make 10 metal. An advanced fusion will make 3,000 energy. And so, in order to convert that, would be 5 to 1 ratio. Now, this differs when it comes to C, for example. So,
C is roughly the same.
in the C, you will have a higher metal income and at the cost of a higher energy cost when it comes to conversion. It's a little more efficient for space and for just like production, but it's roughly the same in terms of the actual conversion rate. So, yeah. So, and like Driver just said, the advanced fusion will produce 50 metal, which in terms of conversion. So if you have 5 advanced converters for 1 advanced fusion, you will gain 50 metal out of that. That's huge. Now, if you're looking for efficiency, you want to do 4.5 energy converters to metal for the advanced fusions you have. What this means is if you have 3 advanced fusions, you should have something like 14.5 or 13.5 converters. So you're going to have a 1.5 thousand, give or take, energy income surplus, and you will have 150 metal income, something like this. I mean, I'm doing math on the fly, but the point is the reason why you want to do this is because your unit production costs energy that goes over top of the metal conversion. And that energy cost is always going to be significantly more than the metal cost because energy units cost more energy than they do metal. Generally speaking, it's anywhere between 5 to 25 times the amount of energy for the metal, if not more. So you definitely want to have a little bit of a surplus in energy if you're trying to make your economy the utmost efficient, assuming you're spending every point of income in your metal income. Go ahead, Driver.
So I just want to bring this to everyone's attention. If you ever have a anti-nuke that is unloaded and you're stalling on resources, Decat here is not stalling on resources. Give it to an ally. You being alive is to their benefit, especially if that ally also has resources. Tell them why you're doing it and then ask for it back. Whenever you can get away with it, primarily for switching to T3 production, basically it's a choice of what are you trying to do. For example, with Armada, this person right here, for example, went T3. This is a fairly early time for Razorbacks. What I would have recommended is to spam out some Marauders instead. Marauders are basically medium tanks. Sorry, they're functional medium tanks that have an anti-aircraft weapon attached to them. And they also have they're really fast for a T3 unit, and they are relatively adaptive to whatever situation you're in. You will have to transition out of them to something like Razorbacks or Titans or Thors. But with ARM, it's a little bit more tricky because of how cheap Marauders are. For core, it's generally speaking when the T2 bot lab isn't working anymore. Another nuke lands. That's actually a rather good nuke. It got rid of everything that was needed to have been removed. Oh, by the way, Typhoon, Yellow, when he was making the plasma battery, the reason why I said it was in a bad position is because he only had a handful of turrets. Actually, I think only 1 turret protecting it. That basically got overwhelmed, pushed, and then he lost his entire investment of a T2 plasma cannon turret. Also, on top of that, if you see an ally with no energy, try to make sure that they are given something. If you have T2 economy, consider your T1 economy being expendable. Oh, this is just a sad state. That's the Tat nuke working, by the way. with yellow, what he needs to be doing here, by the way, is not issuing move orders. He needs to be issuing fight commands. He has the anti-air to be able to handle these things. In fact, retreating his gunships meant that his dragons meant that they actually took more damage because they were running away from fighters and they were able to get additional shots off. I don't understand his target. Oh. If you have these dragons, by the way, you really do need to target anti-air. Or, the now turrets, followed by whatever anti-air is annoying you, and res bots. This is an entirely recoverable position, even though two dragons were involved in it.
What are dragons?
The crows, the flying fortresses for T2 Core's air.
They're essentially the mammoths in the air, for the record.
Yes.
If anybody doesn't know, they're super strong. It's a good idea to set the the retreat percentage, like the retreat percentage, to allow them to go home and dock, so they can repair, to about 50% or so. That way, you don't generally lose them. You're going to want to gauge this based on how deep into enemy territory they go. If you're attacking the enemy's backline, they have a lot of anti-air. Even 70% is good, because a lot of the enemy's anti-air will chase them out, and they will make it back to the landing pads to repair anyway, generally speaking. So if you have multiples of these, for example, let's say you send 10 in, 2 of them take the brunt, the front end, and they eat a whole bunch of damage. They'll go home and repair, while the rest, the remaining 8 or so, will come in and punch the hell out of the enemy before they have to return as well, and rinse and repeat ad infinitum. So definitely good to pay attention to that.
That's just an anti-nuke intercepting a nuke launcher. You'll see that in the replay. With flying fortresses, by the way, try to manage where the air repair pads are. If you can get them close to the front line, that's perfect. They're not stupidly expensive to lose. They're only 400 metal. Remember that they're able to repair 4 units at a time, and dragons cost 5,100 metal. You want those things.
Can we do a zoom in on the units that you're talking about, my brother?
Okay. So when this comes up, dragons, they're really good at. They have a very slow flight speed. So keep having them go all the way from here to here to an air repair pad. That's a lot of time being wasted. If you can, always try to have a mobile amount of build power specifically for these air repair pads being built and being reclaimed. By reclaiming them, you prevent your dragons from going to bad locations. Like, for example, if there's an air repair pad here, a dragon might, instead of picking the closest one, might pick to go to the one much further away. So always try to manage where your air repair pads are. Thank you, Alko, for reminding me about that.
My brother.
Okay. At this point, what I'm going to suggest is that this match is a win for East at this point in time. They have broken through one lane in a critical way, and they have basically mitigated the usage of the middle eco to their advantage. For example, right here, Typhoon's probably going to either lose a commander or a bunch of mexes that he really does not want to lose.
Ignore. I'm gonna send you a message right now. Just ignore it until after we're done.
Okay.
My brother.
Okay.
Have the wind conditions changed, driver? Do you think? Because
Yes.
I see a few
This
conditions
lane
that have
changed.
changed. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over that then. Go ahead.
So in this lane, one of the things that I noticed early on, I just didn't think it was going to be that quick of a payout, was the T3 units coming into play. Basically, it meant that the cat base right here decided to no longer exist by T3 units. On top of that, that basically just means a lot of reclaim is in this region. If I were to get up anything. let me erase it. In this region alone, sorry, there is 14,000 metal, and there's a bunch of build power that can easily reclaim this stuff. That's extremely dangerous. On the south side of mid, it's a much more it's a lot more stable still. It's just that it is in favor of the tactic launcher paying out by denying some pushes, if I were to select it. It's able to counter everything roughly here that Grumpy has. So as long as it's still there, it's an influencing on this match, but it's not a game-winning. It's not game-winning by itself at this time. On top of that, South has basically remained the same. It is a much harder. It is a lot going. Sorry, for West, it's a lot hard to push through now because there's actual turrets there. But East is not taking full advantage of those mexes in the middle south. An immediate win condition is available on North in two ways. Buttons. I forget which ones to push. If Typhoon's commander right here dies, he should actually move his commander down south and possibly even consider self-destructing it immediately.
Typhoon is yellow,
yeah.
by the way. Yellow.
Yes.
Yellow.
The reason why he needs to consider this right now is for two things. These dragons are extremely expensive and they cannot be resurrected. Because of that, his commander is very good for anti-aircraft one time as a bomb. So he really needs to consider his commander placement while dealing with this issue of units leaking through. By detonating his commander in this spot, by the way, right here, it means that he has control over his commanders dying in comparison to the rest of his units.
That's right. And I was just going to say that. And then on top of that, keep in mind, the units are streaming up a hill. And so they don't have vision on the top of the hill necessarily. However, his commander has D-gun range on that hill. So his commander can, as those units are streaming in, D-gun them one by one by one by one by one. And get a significant cost advantage that way as well.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The only question is, will they kill his commander, and will his commander kill his dragons?
That's right.
That's the two big things. Other than that, North mid is basically winning for East. North is completely winning for East. Everything else is stable. So
I think East actually has the significant upper hand, other than a lot of the problem that West is doing is the confusion as to whether or not the units are useful. This is something we often go over in the clinics in this community, is that players need to use their units and use their economy. And so a lot of the time players will turtle up and do almost nothing. Unfortunately, this is good in terms of them playing their game, but the second that your ally dies, you are probably next. So it's probably a good idea to use your economy and contribute to the team.
Always have a selfless interest in your allies.
That's right.
It'll be to your
cynicism 101. Cynicism 101. Be a cynic, but be a cynic as a team, for sure.
I'm just pausing right here to count the amount of fusions that they have. Advanced fusions, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So for example, what we're talking about right now, or what at least I'm trying to bring up, is that S Fireman, for example, he's the lowest skill player on the West team. That's a red team, right? Red, pink, and the fucking beige or tan or whatever, yellow, etc. I see colors, by the way. I watched shows when I was a child. I can't remember their names. Sesame Street. There we go. Okay, so S Fireman, for example, has a great economy, but he's not actually able to produce or help with his team because he's not making units and doing anything with it, right? And so even though he doesn't have the highest income, he definitely has a surplus enough that he could feed, for example, the highest skill player on the team, Albardo, for example. And Albardo could produce a lot more units and actually do something with that. And so what that tells you, what that essentially indicates, is that if Fireman was using his economy properly, he would actually be able to contribute to his team, in much the same way. The problem is that he's not actively doing that. And so he's attempting to make some T1 units. He's attempting to do that, but his economy and his income and his production is nowhere near Albardo. And if Alberto had those resources, he would potentially win the game as well. And so, you know, the win condition currently is on West team. That's a green, blue, purple, teal, etc. team. But the opportunity is hanging on the balance of the resource management of the losing team, which is currently red. Go ahead, driver.
Right is the east, by the way. One thing I would like to point... I would like to point out one thing, by the way. A concentrated eco is actually rather important, and considering that Kobold has 5, and which is half of his team's 10 aphises, he's actually in a very strong position to actually contribute to ecoing. He's also in a very strong position to consider producing his other allies to make things go quickly. I am on east, by the way, I am counting this aphis as an advantage to them alongside these 3 fusions. That's just because of 3 regular fusions are 1 aphis. It is equivalent to the energy production of 1 advanced fusion. East only has 8, and with one of them not being finished. And they're all spread out through basically everyone in the middle and up, which is really good for them from a defensive standpoint. If I were to erase everything. Basically because Rubber Duck right here, which is Lime, he basically has a number of things going for him, but his economy is very weak. He doesn't have very many turrets, and he is being defended against... his allies are defending him against the enemy at this time. So that's something that actually leads to a very critical feature for East to pay attention to. Is that this is something that Grumpy is likely looking at once every 5 or 10 seconds to see if anyone's pushing in south, because he knows that his economy is this amount of distance away from being dead. On top of that, another ally's base is a very short distance from being dead as well, followed by going up north. So, oops, I did not mean to open those. That mouse spectators. Okay, I'll be on pause at this time. By the way, I will mention this about Fireman. He is producing the most annoying unit for snipers to ever deal with, which is helping his allies a lot more than you might think. It is ticks. They are dirt cheap, and if they take 1 sniper shot, they have paid. That's why Grumpy is switching to ticks of his own to try and make sure that shots are being eaten up by... that the ticks are literally countering the other ticks. At this stage of the game, if you have a commander, by the way, I would strongly recommend considering them to be cloaked and standing in a corner somewhere. Like, for example, Emishiro's commander should be roughly over here and cloaked. It's in a convenient spot that's hard to see. You would have to go into this little spot right here with a unit to spot that commander. South is in the worst case situation right now. It is being pushed, and Grumpy is the responsible person who prepared for that. That's the downside of using Marauders, by the way. They don't have the best HP for Tier 3, but they're really easy and really quick to rush. Oh, that's just sad. At this point, mid with North winning hard and mid winning hard, it's a guaranteed win at this point. There's nothing there's nothing that West can do to win from this match.
Can you talk a bit more about sharing units and production with your team?
So, what you should be looking at is every so often during the match, you should try to see what you have. You should look at what your allies also have. If they don't have something, for example, they are lacking a lot of energy and you have a ton of it. Let's say you're sitting on 2 energy storages worth of energy. You can actually give them the energy storages and a bunch of energy at the same time, and that will alleviate a lot of their issues. Whenever you're trying to...
Sorry, just real quick. I'm just going to add to your point. There's 3 ways to interpret this, by the way. You can do this through the player list in the bottom right. You can do it by zooming out and seeing if they're getting their ass whipped on the map. And then the third way is simply just by looking at your own economy. You are surplusing or having a significant amount of energy or metal storage or excess or whatever's there. You could potentially share that to your teammates, because a winning team is a team that's winning. It's not just you. So go ahead.
Always have a selfish interest in your allies.
Yeah, so you put the slide on top of your energy and metal meter, the red one,
Slide.
you put it down.
Yep, you can do that. You can also consider keeping them up at the levels that they're at, but change them to be, but be more selective about who's receiving the resources. It's not always is it the case that a person needs the resources. There's always someone who needs it a little bit more than others. For example, Aqua likely could use a lot more metal right now compared to, which is purple right now. Compared to actual Aqua, which is Garbager on the color scheme. Always look for if you're ever going to try and give metal out or energy out to people. You can even look at their turrets if they need energy, for example. Look at what their metal storage is and what their energy storage is before giving them resources, and try to be a little bit in the bottom right, and try to be selective about who's receiving it and who's not. Does that answer your question?
The other thing to remember too is that if you're actually, sorry, I was just talking on the other side of the room because I'm a derp. The other thing to remember, guys, is in order to share either metal, energy, or units, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's the player list. Beside the player names are the icons in which you can do this. You can slide energy up and down. You can slide metal up and down. And then for the unit shares, you select the units that you're trying to share, and then double click the multi-arrow icon in that list beside the player name. Now here's the other thing you can do. You can just simply press H. You can select the units, press H, and then you'll be able to see the metal share, the unit share, etc. And you can select players to from. Go ahead.
Okay. One other thing that you should consider with your allies, and this is a little bit evil sometimes, you can get, if you see that you're really low on energy and you need other people to help defend against you because you don't, and they have energy in particular, give your turrets to them, because that will allow your turrets to fire more often and allow you to not deal with the energy drain that's occurring right now. If it's things like an anti-nuke, if you see someone on your team has a fusion and you need an anti-nuke loaded really quickly, and it practically needs to be guaranteed, you can give the anti-nuke to them. Anything that's important to have up to begin with that you can't afford right now, but your allies can, is something that you should consider. I have most certainly given my anti-nuke to Grumpy, or if not Grumpy, a few other really high tier players that play in tech positions. Specifically because of their economy being better than mine, and they are able to absorb a anti-nuke loading for about 10 minutes. And it's to their benefit as well. That's
Thank you.
extremely
I didn't know about the bottom right that you can send units there.
Yeah. This is a replay, by the way, which is why you don't see those things in the bottom right area. But you will see people's ping and their resource bars and their income. That's a little bit late. Unfortunately, resign votes are not necessarily always are not displayed during replays. So it might have been that the resign vote was called when North was being pushed right here. I just won't know that, and no one will know that at this point in time.
Thank you very much, guys. I have to go now.
Okay, see ya.
See ya.
Does anyone else have any other questions about stuff? Oh, for sniper countering, one of the things that you should consider is spy bots. This event's not over, by the way. You should always consider trying to figure out how to stop the snipers from working. This could be in sniping out their energy production. For the relevant player, you can make it so harder for them to target specific units with walls. There's a lot of options that you have available to yourself. To you. Killing them outright is not necessarily the best choice that you can have, but it does work consistently. Remember, it's also important to remember that producing snipers is 20 seconds worth of a fusion reactor's production. Someone drew art. That looks like an arm jammer. Okay. I'll be moving on to one more replay. This is a screen that you will never see. Or if you do see, someone did something really wrong. Okay. Okay. And I'll be pulling up one more replay, and then that'll be the end of the event. There'll be a black screen for a little bit of time. Nope, never mind. Alcohol, is there anything that you want to add about things that I've been missing? Or did you mute yourself already? Oh, you're muted. By the way, actually, I'll show this right now. If you want to submit a replay, by the way, you will be going to your bar installation. In my case, it is installed on my E drive. You will go to data, and then finally you'll go to demos. It is the it will not be the cache files. It will be the it'll always be the non-cache files that I'm interested in. Feel free to post them in Bar Academy if you want. Is there no water on this map? I have a slight feeling that there's no water on this map. Oh, this is a 16v16 match.
Okay, I'm back.
Hello. There's going to be a lot of things happening in this match. This is the 10K member replay that occurred.
Can I offer a suggestion real quick, Trevor? We covered a whole bunch of team games. Can we focus on a smaller game or even possibly a 1v1?
Can you give me one of them?
I sent you a link of me and Andy, in
Okay,
which case I lost, but it's probably a very good replay for people to check out.
Okay, I will be looking for it. It was a combat.
you want me to put a ping in the chat there for you?
I think I see it. Is it on comment or?
Yes.
Okay, I
that
found
is
it.
correct. Just because we've done the team games, and so some of the players who may be watching, who may not even be in the chat, may be watching on YouTube, may want to just focus on smaller games. So let's consider that as well.
Okay, thank
Go
you
ahead.
for.
Oh no, that was me. I was tearing myself on your end. I apologize.
Oh, thank you.
When you don't recognize your own voice, guys. Okay, I would suggest that we do this game, or as Goopy had said, any one of his games. We can do that, and then unfortunately, I have to dip.
Again, I might be late saying this, but I do have I think I have a replay on a 1v1 with against an AI, as well as a video on that.
Sam, we
Sure.
we can hear the live stream in the background.
Yep. No, that's fine. And Sam, what I'm gonna suggest today is that for this particular clinic, we're just gonna take the replays that we have. We're gonna use this as an introductory course for players to submit their own replays. So we're gonna be referring to this live stream. Me personally, I will be copying the link for the live stream and posting this to other players and suggesting that they add their replays for us to go over in terms of analytics. And moving forward, what we won't necessarily be doing, if Driver is cool with this, he and I will go over this. It's probably going to be run by him. It's his channel. But we may be focusing more on what is happening in the game as opposed to treating it like a clinic with just advice overall and all the different pointers. So if in the event that Sam or any other player may have a review or a replay, I should say, for us to review, then definitely submit that on Discord. You can check out the Bar Discord and just hit either one of us up. You'll see our names here. And we will go over those together in a more analytical kind of way of what's actually happening on screen as opposed to us just giving advice on the map overall. This is the first instance of us doing a live replay analysis, so bear with us.
What I will probably do is set up a Google form link, and that will be a way for people to submit stuff. I'll look more into how to get stuff done. That way, if people wish to have these live stream events occur, by the way, if people have been saying stuff on YouTube chat, I have not been seeing it.
I'm keeping an eye on it, brother.
So,
it's all good.
It's basically a choice of if I switch to YouTube, I get a blank screen on this side. I have to look at OBS a little bit more. So in this match,
I'm here with you. Go ahead. Sorry.
So Alco loses, but there's reasons why that happens. 1v1 is so with 1v1, it's always important to look at the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes. It's better to actually watch it in reverse. But we're going to be seeing how this gets developed. It is worth noting that during this time, there was a specific bug with all factories. Basically, constructors were being pushed out of this region.
Yep. And also, sorry, Driver, at the same time, there was also a bug where when you were trying to issue commands to your units, sometimes the units would select everything that were in your drag box, as opposed to just the offensive units. So, that was also an issue. Andy's one of the better players in the entire game, for the record, and that was something that we were both kind of sussing out as we were going. So, I'll shut up and let Driver give the analysis of this game because this was me playing. I am Alco Desi, Pro Alco Desi, and I'll just leave it there. Go ahead, brother.
So,
thank you.
One of the things that you at the start, always when you're starting, you always need to consider how your buildings are going to be protected. In this case of Randy, what he decided to do was build 2 mexes as close as possible to each other, followed by a basic solar and an LLT, a light laser turret that is able to protect all of this eco. In 1v1s, sometimes you might need a turret, sometimes you might not. But in Randy's case of pushing forward to this metal spot right here, having these 2 mexes and solar protected at least in some way is rather important early on. with ARM Solar, by the way, it is possible to build it. Sorry, the basic solar. It is possible to build it in ways that most buildings normally wouldn't allow, because their footprint changes when they're built versus when they're not. For example, this turret might have been only cubical here during the building process, but it's actually buildable here right now. Just it's a little tidbit thing that most people might not know. Alco, in his starting position, took the bottom left position, whereas with Randy, he took a more central position on the map. So in Alco's case, this means that he has less regions to immediately protect on for raids, whereas with Randy, he has all of these as opportunities for raiding if units wish to go through to his front base right here, or around to the side to his back base right here. The advantage of, however, having a factory much more centrally located on the map basically means that you are better able to get units out into the map in different regions. So, for example, he can quickly react to going in the south, middle, and north. Whereas with Alco, what you'll find is that he's unable to get units out into the north in a rather easy way because he has to go in one of those two directions. But he can easily react to south, which is the easiest lane for him to react to. For early raiding, Alco, instead of building turrets, went with a grunt on Rome. This is a way of, and also on fight command, by the way, initially. This is just so that he can catch incoming scouts. And notice how Alco, he's moving his units in a way to simply protect the mexes rather than trying to kill the scouts. That's extremely important in 1v1 when you're doing counter raiding. Sorry, when you're countering a raid from coming in. You will notice that Randy has not moved his commander. It is worth noting this commander is not going to move for the rest of the match. It's just going to be staying in that spot. Whereas Alco, he's being aggressive. He is expanding with mexes. He is doing it in a way that is not easily protected by turrets, but he's going to be reliant on units protecting his mexes. So, which is his own advantage and disadvantage at the same time. Randy right now he's parking units down here in south because he knows that Alco started in south. Sorry, I'll refer to Alco as red from this point forward and Randy as blue. Blue also knows that red is doing the bot spart brain. Blue knows that red is using bots for their starting factory. This means that for blue, it's more important to not lose units and to be a lot more specific about where the units are lost if they occur. For vehicles, you need to remember that they always have a worse metal to damage cost compared to bots, and they also have a higher move speed across the map, but they have worse reaction times in general. This is one of the downsides of using units for countering raids. I think you lose that mex. And you react with red is reacting with a bunch of units to try and catch one scout right now. Alco, what he's doing right now is moving his units up and away, and his goal is to bring his units down here. The reason why he's doing that is that this direction is something that Blue is not really expecting his units to be coming in from because of the factory placement. One of the things that Red is trading right now is units in defended regions, in regions that he should be defending for regions that he's raiding for. In 1v1, it is a constant gamble of what you are doing, of what you're attempting to do. You will also notice at this time that Blue is specifically just building out basic solars, making them move in a line. The goal is to simply just have energy production on queue slowly over time. Does anyone have any questions so far about what's going on? So, hopefully that's enough time for the delay. So, Blue, what he's doing right now is he's making his expansions in this direction and not in this direction. Right here. This is actually rather important because what this means is that his build power is in a much more controlling fashion. If he needs to react to units coming through, if I were to erase the markings right now, if he needs turrets to be built in this region right here, which partially protects the stuff back here, that means that he's better able to secure back mexes and to spend less metal defending those back mexes. So that's one of the reasons why he's moving this direction. The other reason is that these back mexes mean that the build power is being capped back here rather than being forward.
2 quick notes, not on myself, but on Andy, which is the blue player. The reason he's building his solars the way he's building them is because even if they die, they offer obstacles for my units, for Red's units, to not be able to pass through them. So if you zoom in on his base and select the con driver, you'll be able to see the build pattern that he's giving his solars. He's doing this because he knows, right? I've been playing against Andy, Alco, Desi. I've been playing against Andy for 26 years off and on. So he knows that I'm going to raid the heck out of him. So what he wants to do is be able to stop me from doing this. Now, even if you don't know your opponents, this is a good strategy to have because you can also set up some minor defenses like laser towers or what have you in between those things. And any kind of raid that gets back there is going to look to get into your production line. Those laser towers are going to have an exponential value. So they're going to be defended by the units in front of them, then they're going to take longer to die, and X, Y, and Z. And so you'll see a lot of this moving forward. Go ahead.
So as you can see right now, Blue he's building turrets in this region to help counter raiding into his regions. Alco is spending all of his resources at a very interesting efficiency rate. This is almost ideal for efficiency if you're curious on spending resources. But you also need to consider where Blue is sending units. I'll actually pause it right here. And I'll select a commander. Blue has lost about 320 mil worth of tanks in, I think, this region. And
open the stats window, driver.
Say again?
So you could potentially open the stats window, brother.
Oh, I'm talking about unit Rex in this region. It's definitely 300 mil in this region. If you look at the map, you'll see the circle being drawn, by the way. Just in this region alone is 300 metal, and that's to Red's advantage if he wants to reclaim it quickly. Vehicles have the issue of being expensive up front, but being able to take better damage later down the line. So you need to worry about where you're losing your units as a vehicle player. Just having 1 or 2 less units actually can mean a lot of difference versus bots, especially at this stage of the match. And on top of that, there's 172 metal worth of very free, practically safe to reclaim units or resurrectable units right here. Which is very far away from where Andy is, and these units are not hitting eco. So they're not really paying by killing other units, they're actually being a detriment to him.
Yep.
So if you can...
Is my mic live?
Yeah, it is.
I apologize. So just real quick, in the bottom right-hand corner, you guys can see the players and their incomes. So Andy is slightly beating me on metal income, beating Alco, Red. Blue is slightly beating Red on metal income, but he's hard surplusing on his energy income, which means that even though he has an advantage in metal, he's not gaining an advantage in units, full stop, because he's investing a lot of this metal into his energy for virtually no reason. So, yes, he's efficient in his energy, but his metal income is not very efficient, and he's leaving all of these wrecks that he's not efficient in on my side of the map, on Red's side of the map. So
Yep.
I'm I'm fine with this as we're playing. So,
Yep. The other reason why he's shifting to energy production and is just that he doesn't want to have he wants to have peace of mind with his energy production, and he's also thinking of switching over to air, which he cancels at this point in time. That's because he realized that you were vehicles and you can get out missile trucks rather quickly. You still haven't built that mech spec there. But you're intending to resurrect it, never mind. In my humble opinion, I think it'll be better for you to have simply reclaimed the mechs and then rebuild it later. It's a difference in twin metal.
I hard disagree, but go ahead. I needed the res bots anyway, so they were just building up as I was going. But go ahead.
It's a difference of twin metal that could have sped the production of a nano, and you also make the mistake of double building a mechs.
It's faster to use the res bot to build it and gains me more metal than what it costs to reclaim it anyway.
Yeah.
The reclaim is the value of reclaim is 23 metal. If I was to resurrect it instead, I get more metal returned from the time it takes to resurrect it than the time that it takes to build it.
It's 30
It's
metal.
better to run.
So.
That's
Yeah, it's
20. It's 23. But anyway, but the thing is that is that's 11 seconds. It takes more than 11 seconds to build a metal extractor. So it's better to resurrect than it is to reclaim and build.
It can depend slightly
Terms of
because in this case there's also build power that could have aided.
Well, resurrection is build power, brother. Go ahead.
That's just the one edge case where it's just for this one in particular that you probably want to consider reclaiming it. The rest you would probably it's just better to resurrect.
Sure.
So it's more of me looking at what you're doing and looking at what you're stalling on as well. That's the other reasons why I would consider the reclaim.
Yep, you're right.
So at this point, Alco's been able to push in 3 medium tanks to start shooting up solars, which is actually really good. Not all these solars are going to be resurrectable. Like this one turned into heap, that one turned into heap. And notice how Alco is keeping his units moving forward. This is actually extremely important. Do you know how to use set target, by the way, Alco?
I do. Yep.
What I would recommend is just occasionally just give a move order, right click, set target if you can do it. If you can't, then it's fine.
The problem with playing Andy is he has 300 APM sometimes, so you kind of have to keep up with him.
At this point, by the way,
problem.
I would have considered self-destructing both of these units instead of trying to save them.
Yeah, that's right. Deny metal.
Yeah,
that's right.
Self-destructing.
What I was looking to do, though, for the record, is deny energy. So I wanted to damage the solars, and the reason is, if you look at Andy's income, he has no energy income. I wanted to deny that as much as possible.
It's worth noting that basic solar does not produce energy if it gets shot at. It will immediately stop producing energy and armor up.
Yep.
In this case, by the way, Red is able to salvage these 2 tanks simply by Blue not caring about them anymore. So that's one thing to consider. On top of that, there is a vehicle lab right here. And I think this is your loss is when you lose, or close to it.
Close to it, yeah.
Yep. So the advantages of having a forward lab is actually rather big. It's just that you need to consider where it's placed in relationship to the rest of the map. In this case, I would have recommended, instead of it being down here, possibly have it being up here. And instead of expanding this way forward, you would expand up here and to this point. Unless there's some place where you've attempted this and there's reasons to not do it that way. The reason why you want to be up here is that it gives you better access to expanding up, down, forward, and all round. Yep, and this is, I think, when you lose your factory. Yep, this is when you lose your factory because of Andy pulling all of your units up here, and suddenly your commander is exposed to. All
Interestingly,
these
that's not what actually did it. There's two things that happened here that we didn't actually go over. So number one, I made probably 10 missile trucks because I spotted air, but he transitioned immediately out of that by reclaiming his air factor. So he screwed me a little bit on the mental game. Number two is he kept his units and his solars in the bottom outside, just on the edge of my radar. So I couldn't actually identify whether or not those were units or laser towers or what. And I never scouted them. And that was fundamentally my issue. Had I scouted his southern base and seen that little row of solars, as I had mentioned earlier, can oftentimes be a mind game or an effective strategy. If I had scouted those, I would have seen, oh shoot, those are just a couple of solars. I could have pushed right in there with 10 or 15 tanks and won the game. So fundamentally, what a lot of the issue is, as you'll continue seeing, you can see that he's pushing hard into me, but he loses this fight ultimately. But I'm also rating him in the back end. A lot of this is up and down, in and out, cost-benefit analysis. How am I going to handle these 3 units when he's got 27 units in my base? Well, I'm going to defend with my commander and my units, and I'm going to raid him in the interim. A lot of these things you will not necessarily notice until you get a lot better at the game. But keep in mind, Andy is one of the best players, if not the best player, in all of the Total Annihilation franchises. And I'm just some guy, right? Like, I've known this guy, he's been one of my cool boys for 20 years, if not 26 years, or what have you. But I'm just some guy. And I lose to regularly. I'll lose to even some of the players who are listening right now or watching or whatever. I'll even lose to you. It's very hard to beat somebody like these guys, right? Like some of the best players. But when you get an advantage, that advantage can turn to a win if you execute it properly. And I did not do that. And that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that we address tonight in the replays is because is such. In the event that you have an advantage, you need to snowball that advantage and control that advantage as you go. You cannot just assume that you've won and start sloppily using your units and not actually doing many things. This entire game was a back and forth all the way until the very end. And, anybody can beat anybody. All it takes is proper unit control. That's one of the things I wanted to make sure was. That's all.
Hey, Alco. I would like to make point of this. There was a raid that came down here. The one that you stopped. Not this one. Just prior. When you were using fight command with your units, I would have recommended instead just use move because of 2 things to consider. One is that your stuff that's important is right here. And as long as you keep your units moving towards the important stuff, it's fine. Your goal is, at this point for the new players, one of the things that you need to consider is deterrence. How can I deter someone from raiding my base? How can I prevent them from raiding my base is the next level that you have to also consider.
Yep. And so, just for the record, in this game, I had over 200 APM. So I am F moving and right-click moving my armies all over the map the entire game. So it might appear one way, but it is not the way that was happening in the actual game. Yep. Just so you know.
I did check your games, and I did see that they were on fight command.
Sure. At that particular time, but keep in mind, I'm controlling 2 other armies at the same time, right? So I might have been jumping back and forth. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. This, by the way, don't worry about if you see replays where people have constructors going about building multiple mexes that are already built. That's just because of area mechs being used.
Yep.
Those 2 constructors are a little bit of a question mark, but looking at a few other things. Missile trucks are a few other things to mention. Red spots being utilized here is actually extremely important. This allows this is allowing Red to resurrect units that he doesn't have right now. Because on unit count, he does have an advantage. You have the issues of a number of those units are missile trucks, which are not the best anti-ground, but they are decent anti-air. There's light tanks, there's medium tanks, and there's plasma bots. Versus what Blue is just doing is straight up medium tanks and vehicle scouts.
He's trying to punch through my mid in the game. He's trying to cut off my reinforcements from my expansions. And you'll see why here if Driver just presses play here in a minute here, you'll see exactly why he does that. He's trying to essentially just put a line right through my base.
Also, with Red having so many different types of units, this basically means you need to constantly balance what can these units do, versus what they should be doing.
Yeah,
much more often, and this is the downside of having 2 labs and that are just producing combat units.
On the same token, Andy also has 2 labs. They're both vehicle, so he can add them to auto groups. He can group them up a lot more efficiently, and he can control them in a much more basic kind of way that allows him to maximize his efficiency of his units, as opposed to me, Red, who at the end of the day, I have to send my bots in a certain direction, send my vehicles in another direction. Each one of these EPMs, effective actions, effective movements, effective precision movements, however you want to look at it, right? Each one of these different actions are essentially slowing down my effectivity, my effectiveness. And the reason this is because it's more effective to act than it is to react. And so he might send 10 tanks into my base, and they're going to lose, but they're going to slow down my production. They're also going to force me to send 15 tanks to stop him before he does too much damage. And in that interim, in that time, he's going to be able to send his 10 tanks to my north end. As you're going to start seeing here at this point, if you look at the very north, you're going to start seeing his scouts, which he has time to react to because he just sent 10 tanks on a move order. He doesn't really care if they die. He's going to get gains on the north end of the map because he's sending scouts to take out my mexes.
Yep, and he's also preventing an LT from being built.
That's right. And so as you add up all of these micro commands, which it's hard to do, but when you have 200 actions per minute, it's a little bit easier, the more experience you have. But, I had this game in a snowball effect that I could have easily turned around had I actually scouted and used my units a little more effectively. He instead used his units significantly more effectively, knew he was behind. He even called it out GG on the microphone, but he still took it out because at the end of the day, he used his units better than I did. And he knew I would do that because he knows me very well. But you may not always know your opponent. You still just have to use your units effectively. So, anyway, I apologize.
And that's actually really good to know.
Yeah.
And on top of that, one other thing about having 2 labs, especially if they're different. This is when you lose, by the way. The thing that you need to remember is that the amount of build power that's going into one lab is build power that's not going into the other lab, and that affects the amount of units that you have. And in the case of bots, at this point, having both plasma bots and medium tanks being built is not the most efficient uses of your resources. You should be picking one or the other. But for the bot lab, you should. The reason why you keep a bot lab around, if you have a second lab, is specifically for the res bots and the grunts and the anti-air craft bots, which are actually really good.
That said, I'm in a very, very, very defensive position, which means that thuds or plasma bots from the bot tree are good trades with medium tanks. They're decent trades. And so the reason I transitioned to these in this particular game, which you shouldn't do in general, especially if you're in an 8v8, you should not do this, is if at the end of the day, the enemy is mostly focused on vehicles, to just go thuds or bots. I didn't do that for that reason. I was trying to make thuds because I had to compensate for his push that was coming in right now. So Anyway.
Yep.
I knew that he was only vehicles, so I had to trade with him somehow.
Yep.
That's why.
On top of that, you would also, for the vehicle lab in particular, you might actually be better off picking up things like pounders for defensive reasons.
Yep, that's right.
And rascals, which are scouts. Just so that way you at least, with light scout vehicles, they are the fastest unit in the game, bar the zipper.
Yep.
And these things go all over the map extremely quickly. In the case of Randy, when he was sending his... Oops, let me erase that drawing. When he was sending his scouts up to here, they probably got there in about 30 seconds. Maybe less.
Yep. And the one thing that you didn't really cover in your stream, but you may have seen it on the replay or in the mini-map if anybody was, is that I was constantly raiding him in the north. I have anywhere from 2 to 5 tanks non-stop taking out his northern expansions the entire game through, which is one of the reasons why, again, he thought he was going to lose. But then he just happened to control his units better, and then he won. And that's all it really takes, is Micro really wins these games. Go ahead, John.
And when the stream catches up, on the map, you will notice that Randy, he places his radars in inconvenient locations for a player. This radar, especially in the top right corner, was probably... let me deselect that. This radar in particular...
I didn't even know it was there. I had no idea it was there.
It's been here for about 10-15 minutes. And it's never died. This radar right here was known. It could have been targeted. It had an opportunity to die. This radar in the north, no opportunity. It was practically hidden. When you are looking for intel structures like radars or the cameras, the cloakable cameras, always put them in inconvenient locations. It is to your benefit.
Or on top of hills, for the record. On top of
like
hills
here.
is also very, very, very beneficial to you.
Yep. If I were to show you, you could build it right here. There's almost no spots where you can build a camera. And the camera right here basically will never get touched. Same in the divots, although it won't give you the line of sight that you want. So anything that gives you vision and radar, try to have it just be in inconvenient locations. Randy at certain points, Blue, him having 2 radars right here, being circled. The reason why he needs 2 there is because one of them is likely going to die. Actually, I'm lying, there's 3. The chances of one of them dying is extremely important that you need to consider for intel. So having redundancy with radars is much more valuable than having redundancy with turrets sometimes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, him having a second vehicle lab is not a problem because he's able to utilize the build power for both of them, and he's using them for splitting up his build queues, in which this case it's just straight up medium tanks.
All right, brother. You might as well let it play out, let it finish out, and then these guys can see the end game of a 1v1, and then I'm gonna have to take off, my dude. So we'll let it go from there.
And
is there anything else that you...
There were no other plans that I had for the amount of replays I had. I didn't have the opportunity to review them yesterday, unfortunately.
Oh, that's cool. Well, even still, I mean, moving forward, now we know, right? So we can go from here. It's great.
Perfect. So, thank you all for being here. Are there any other questions that people have right now? You can come over to the Discord at this point. I'll be ending the live stream, or actually, you can close out and mute the live stream.
Okay. Before you, oh no, did you already do it?
No, not yet. I have not ended it yet.
Perfect. Guys, I just want to remind you guys that in the BAR community, in the bar community, we absolutely look towards helping new players, and we do this every single day. There are at least a dozen mentors that will jump in and help you. If you have any questions, you can absolutely ask that. Make sure to join the bar Discord in order to do this. If you're checking this out, please like and subscribe the video. We're trying to get some some form of publicity for the game, and in which case is welcoming to and towards new players of the game. Thank you so much to Driver44 for doing some replay analytics. I really appreciate you doing this. Moving forward, we're going to have a different format, guys, in which case Driver and I are going to go over a way for us to do this more efficiently, where I can answer questions while he's doing this, or vice versa, and we can eliminate the delay. I apologize for that. At the end of the day, we just finished today, just before doing this this clinic. We just finished a community contributor meeting, in which case we went over a lot of the things that went on, or that are going to be worked on in the game, and the things that we are trying to work on in the game. And so we're actively here trying to produce an experience that all the players, whether they're experienced players or new players, will enjoy. So definitely come check out the game if you're seeing this and you haven't yet. I love and I appreciate you, and I can't wait to play you guys in the battlefield. And I'm here to help you as well, and so is Driver, so definitely check us out. My brother Driver, the closing is on you. I love you, and thank you for making fun of me in the last clinic we did, because I think that was your turning point to be open to having fun. Anyway, go ahead.
So I'm assuming no one has questions at this point. Okay, perfect. If you want to see another replay that I have done replay analysis before, there's a Folsom Dam replay on my YouTube channel. I actually recommend that you watch it, even though my audio balance is non-existent. There are a lot of things that you need to consider, and there are things that don't necessarily happen in each match. There's things in that Folsom Dam replay, for example, that did not show up here. So if you have a unique replay, or you have a replay where different things have occurred, and you have specific timestamps of the replay, feel free to DM me. It is worth knowing that the way that my Discord profile is set up is that I basically have to accept your DMs for replays, for you submitting replays. What I plan to do is having a Google form where you simply fill a few things out, and you attach the replay file to the form, and that'll be all.
If in the event you need to get a hold of somebody who you think can be helpful towards you, at mentors in the BAR Discord, anyway, the BAR Discord, at mentors, and you can get a hold of any one of us by doing this. What up, Sanders? My brother, we're just wrapping up this video, so we're just going to do that, and then I'll get at you. Go ahead, Driver. Okay, it appears maybe Driver just disconnected. I don't know if he muted his microphone. Go ahead, Primer.
So you were saying, like, just in the main channel at mentors, like,
just on Discord in the main channel, you can at mentors. You can just ask in general, and somebody will direct you to us. If at the end of the day you have a more kind of like a question that has some specificity, something that you need a one-on-one.
Yeah, I was kind of wanting to ask a question on a replay today, but it looks like that's not quite set up. But it doesn't really have to be on like your YouTube thing. But kind of be in the back room.
That's right. But Prime, I apologize. I'm not trying to interject. I just have to go, so I'm just trying to expedite a little bit what's going on here. So if at the end of the day you have a replay, please just add a mentor with a link to your replay from the beyondallreason.info website. You can jump on the replay section of that. You can copy a link to your replay, whatever replay in particular that you're looking for, and then just add a mentor with that replay, and we will definitely check that out. And the next clinic that we do that is a replay analysis, we're going to be, hopefully, as long as Driver's down, I think he might be DC'd or something.
I'm here.
We're going to be, my brother, so we're going to be focusing on that moving forward, I would think. So he and I are going to have to go over this so that we can come up with a format that's more amicable between us, the mentors, and the community in terms of learning and the apprentices. But moving forward, this is our first one, and so we're just trying to kind of bridge the gap between what it is we're doing and the players who may be interested. So we're trying to do this to test the waters. So I appreciate you guys being here. Go ahead, Driver.
Okay. I just had to step out for a moment. I did hear what you were saying, though.
No problem.
So I'll probably have the forms up tomorrow. If it'll be available for people to submit things to. Hopefully, I have it right.
We'll figure it out either way, man. We'll figure it out.
I'm learning how badly coffee can affect me if I don't have it for about 45 minutes.
I'll save it. End the stream, bro. End it already. I gotta pee, man. Okay.
No, I'm going to keep you here.
Oh shit.
No, you
okay. Okay. Thank you. Take it easy, guys. Thank you for joining Disciple, and thank you, Driver. I'll check you out. All right, bro.
Yeah. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you for
Thanks.
coming by. Okay, I'll be going. See you guys. Okay, and end stream.